So I gotta be honest with you guys about something. We've been wiped out. So we're back here at our hayfield, and while it may look pretty and green and like there's a lot of grass back here, the fact is that's a mirage. You can look down in here. If you look across the field, you can see all this grass that looks like, wow, that's a full lush hayfield that needs to be cut, seeded out. But when you get up in it and you look down, this is a spot that hasn't been cut yet, and there's just hardly anything there. So we are cutting hay again. It's that time again. I'm actually out here in our hayfield, and Ben has already cut this field, and the damage is pretty much terrible. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it and make it anything other than it is. It is pretty terrible. Lane just pulled up, and you can see how some of these areas, he thought he'd messed up and we'd already cut and baled this. He thought he'd forgotten that we'd done this a second time, because you can see there is just literally, I guess you can all hear probably me crunching too when I'm walking. There is just hardly nothing left. Now over in some of those areas, there is more grass left that they didn't wipe out, taller, stemmier grasses, but they have eaten all of the short stuff, and by they, I mean armyworms. So we told you not too long ago we were having an armyworm infestation. We wound up spraying for that in some of our fields, and I'm gonna take you in fact and show you those here in a little bit. But these fields were okay, and you don't wanna go around just spraying for things that aren't there. So it wasn't necessary, but they moved in and they wiped it out before we knew what was happening. So this is our rest of our hay fields that had not been cut a second time. Sometimes we can get 3, sometimes in a really exceptional year, 4 cuttings of hay here in Arkansas. That's pretty rare, but definitely 3 is very feasible. But we're not even gonna get a good cutting of 2 cuttings this year. It's just not gonna happen. So I wanna talk to you guys for just a second. What causes all this to happen? Like, where are these armyworms coming from? Are they just always around? And just a few facts about them. So armyworms cannot survive freezing temperatures. So they live like in the ground, their larvae do, or under debris or things, and then they hatch out when conditions are right. And all of our weather this year has just been perfect for them. So we had a lot of wet conditions earlier on. It has turned off dry now. We're actually in a bit of a drought here. It's so crunchy. You can recover from this. Your fields can recover, but it would take rain. It would take probably you putting out some sort of fertilizer or something. And we're so late in the season, if we put out fertilizer now and it did not get rain on it, it would not activate, it would just evaporate, and it would be a total waste of money. And in fact, that's what we did earlier this year. It did get rain, but now the armyworms have eaten good fertilized grass that was meant for the cows. So they're called armyworms because they literally march in like an army in just millions and millions of them and eat it all quickly, and then they move on to another field. Their life cycle is pretty short, like around 28 days or so. A little bit longer if conditions are a bit cooler, but here in this hot part, it's about 28 days. So fairly short, but they're very, very destructive. In fact, this year, they've not only wiped out our pastures, they've wiped out our yard. They are in my garden. They're burrowing into tomatoes. They are everywhere right now. And if you remember back, we did spray for these in some of our pastures. And like I said, I'm gonna take you over there and show you that. I'm gonna show you the pastures the cows are in. They've affected that as well. So that's where we are. So first off, I wanna show you the fields we're in that we're cutting right now. There is some grass that's salvageable. That's why we're cutting it and gonna try to roll up what hay we can. And then we'll move on to some that we cut the last time. So that was a quick overview of the fields that we are mowing today, and you can see it doesn't look so great. There's good spots in it where we're gonna get some hay, but we are definitely gonna be short. I want to take you over and show you the fields that did get sprayed when we knew that we were having an infestation, and that has been, we cut them probably a couple weeks ago now. So let's go check out how they are growing. So you can see this field right behind me is one we mowed the last time we mowed hay. We have quite a few acres of hay that we mow, so we break it up. We do our first cutting in 2 different sessions. We'll cut, and then we will cure that and rake and bale that, and then we will come back usually a couple weeks later and do the second half, and then our first cutting is complete. We do that again on the second cutting, and if we ever get a third as well. But you can see this is green, it's recovering, and your fields will as well. Your lawns will, everything will. When the armyworms march through, and then if they move on or whether they stay their whole life cycle and die out, it's gonna look very brown and barren and crunchy. It's gonna look terrible. You're gonna think they've killed everything. And while they have eaten it and done a lot of destruction, they haven't necessarily killed it. It's still alive under the ground, and it will recover. Sometimes, like I mentioned earlier, it takes a little fertilizer. It needs some rain, which we're not in a good season for rain right now. So these may not even recover this year. You can see this is starting to, but it's by no means back to as full and thick and lush as it was, or as it would be if there were no armyworms. So probably our plan is to not cut again this year. If it just took off and growed like crazy, we might. But I'm gonna take you up and show you our cow pastures, and then I'll explain why we're doing what we're doing. Oh, it's so bad up here too. That green you're seeing is literally weeds. They have eaten the grass. A lot of that is either eaten or it's so dry that the Bermuda grass is already going dormant, both of which are bad scenarios. Same story up here. Any green you're seeing is weeds. Or you can see, like right out there, there is some baby Johnson grass coming back. That's a good sign. It may recover a bit. I don't expect any just huge, great things this fall, but if we can get enough to graze for a while, that would be so good. It's so bare out here. So it is so bad out here. There's no sugarcoating it. We've had messages and lots of well-meaning comments and people that care after the last video showing and telling that we had armyworms. But a lot of people suggested just put your chickens out there, let them eat them. And then we showed on a video that chickens do like to eat them. But the short answer is it's not possible. It would take millions upon millions upon millions of chickens for us to rotate and graze all of this land. There's hundreds of acres involved, and it just isn't feasible. So we did actually spray part of our land and took care of the problem. But the thing is, they will just keep hatching until either they eat your land down and move on, or until it gets cold, or there's several different scenarios. There's not just one cut and dried answer to get rid of them, especially when you're talking about farmland. Now, if it's your yard and you desire to spray and get rid of them, you just stay on top of it. You watch for them, you spray for them, and if they come back, more hatch out, you spray again. That's a little more difficult to do when you're talking about multiple fields, multiple acres, and just what stage is your hay at, and all kinds of different things. So there's a lot involved. Thankfully, at this point, they are gone. There's nothing left here for them to eat. They ate what they wanted, and they either died out or moved on. There is nothing here. You could see it plain as day if there was, because it's bare. One thing I want to advise you guys about, if you're looking for them on your property, they move around and feed at night. So don't go out there looking during the middle of the day and think, oh yeah, I'm safe, because you won't find them. But go close to dark or early morning, and you're gonna see them being a lot more active. So what now? What are we gonna do from this point forward? Because we don't have enough hay. In fact, we probably only have about half of what we need by the time we get this cutting baled up. We're in dire situation. We're in not only a drought, we have the armyworm damage, but the thing is, it's not just us, it's our neighbors as well. It's people all around this area. So what does that matter, other than just the fact that we care about our neighbors and it's a bummer for them as well? But what that means is there's less hay to be purchased. We can't just go out and find hay on every corner for sale. Secondly, what hay there is available is very, very expensive this year. People have raised their prices due to the demand is higher. So not only can you not find it, but what you can find is very, very pricey, and it is going to cut into your profit off of cattle. But thankfully, we found some. So we found a neighbor down the road that had some for sale. We called, and they had just sold several bales, but they had some left. We said, we will take everything you have. And in fact, they don't even have their last cutting spoken for. They were able to get rid of the armyworms off of their property. They're about to bale for a third time, and we have talked to them possibly about buying some of that as well, and possibly even going forward, maybe filling our land with cows and buying their hay. That is our ultimate goal with rotational grazing, and I spoke about that at the conference this weekend, is to fill the land with cows, let other people own the expensive equipment and the repairs and everything due to that, and bring in their fertilize, bring in their good grass seed and everything, and roll out our hay, and not only fertilize but also seed our pastures in the process, and make more of a profitable business off of cattle instead of reserving lots and lots and lots of acres just to cut grass on. So that's the plan going forward. So while they did eat our hay crop, all is not lost, and the Lord was looking out for us, and we have found a possible source of hay going forward. So I'm gonna call it a success. We're gonna keep plugging along. That is what we do here, and we are not gonna quit. This is just the beginning. We hope you're along with us for the ride, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching. God bless.